Hi, it's Karen here, and today I'm going to show you step by step how to create this card with these different panels on a 14 by 14 square card base. The stamps that I'm using here are all Lavinia, but this will lend itself to any nature of stamps you have in your stash and any occasion. You can change it up for a birthday or Christmas, however you feel like it. So the colours that I'm using are Shaded Lilac and Wilted Violet. The card that I'm using is multifarious cardstock. It takes the blending of these oxides really nicely. And the proportions that I'm using. So you can change this up any which way you like. Just a note to remember. When you do, make a couple of the widths the same. Otherwise it's tricky for the eye to comprehend. So here, these are 4.7 millimeters wide, 4.7 millimeters wide, 4.7. And I know you would say, why don't I just make it 5? Well, next time I jolly well will, and I will make the base of my card a little bit bigger. But there you go. So 4.7 wide. Then this one, because it's a 14 by 14 card base, this is 13.5 centimeters long. And these are 8.5 and 8.5. So you can see I've tried to keep some of them similar. That's a bit more pleasing to the eye. This little one is 3.5 centimeters by 3, and this one is 3.5 centimeters by 5.2. But you get the idea. You can change up the sizes and the proportions to suit whatever you're doing. So the first one we're going to do is this big one. I'm going to move these out of the way, and I'm going to take Shaded Lilac first, and I'm using 2 blending sponges here, and you want a piece of copy paper, just normal photocopy paper that I've cut in half. That is going to protect my work. And I'm just going to ink up my sponge, put the glasses on, that helps. I know you can't see that. And I'm starting off the card and onto the card in a circular motion, and I'm just keeping the sponge moving. You need to make sure that you've got enough ink on the sponge, otherwise it will scratch the card and it's more difficult to get a nice even blend. So as you can see, we're starting off the card again and going towards the center. And it's much better if you do this in smaller pieces. When I say that, what I mean is, let's not go right to the middle straight away. It's harder to blend those scratches out when you do that. So you can see it's a beautiful even blend that way. So I'm just going around all the edge. And I'm going to do just a light piece in the middle, just ever so lightly. There we go. Now I haven't cleaned off my mat yet, but that's okay because we've been using the same colour. When I'm going to change the colours, I'm going to clean it off. That was just water that I spritzed on there, and I'm just using a cloth or a piece of kitchen towel. So that's our first one, and I'm going to go through and do all of them in exactly the same way. So there we have the original colour, all in shaded lilac. Now before we do the second colour, we're going to do the embossing. Some of these I've embossed in white, silver, you can do black, I've done various colours as well. So I'll just show you exactly what I've done and you can follow along or do your own thing. So the first stamp that I'm going to use is one of my absolute favourites. It is the Fairy Thistle, and I'm going to emboss this one in white. I'm taking my anti-static pad because, particularly as I have put oxides on here, you have the potential for it to stick in all sorts of different ways. So I'm just going to pat very thoroughly my anti-static pad all over my card. Knock off the excess. Wipe my mat. And then I'm going to use Versamark clear embossing ink pad and we're going to ink up the stamp. You can see I've put the stamp on an appropriately sized acrylic block. That way you get less rock. And I'm just going to do a gentle tapping motion to ensure that the stamp is completely covered. Press down firmly. Lift it up. And I know you can't see anything, but here we go. And I've got one of these cute little trays to catch the embossing powder. The embossing powder that I'm using is Superfine White by Wow. It is a wow, and it gives you a brilliant crisp image every single time. Now if I was doing more than one, which of course I am here, here and here, I would mark them all up together. So I'd line them up, do the next one and these, and then I'll heat them all in one go. And there we have all our components embossed. Just want to tell you, this one was Fairy Thistle. This is from the new set, Fox 1 set. Isn't he gorgeous? He just looks so inquisitive. This one is Forest Mushroom. This one is Mystic Swirl. And this one is from the new Floral Wreath set. Just come out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a bit of texture. So you can see here we've got a bit of water splattered onto the back of the cards. So that's what we're going to do for the fox and for the mushrooms. We're going to put these out of the way because otherwise they tend to attract any water that's anywhere near it. And I love doing this technique. This is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take my little normal spritzy bottle and I'm going to spray some into my hand. Just a few squirts. And then I'm going to give myself a hand by clapping all over my little piece of card and then dabbing it with some kitchen towel. So that will give you a bit of water texture. And again, we're going to do it for the fox in my hand. The first clap I go off, otherwise you'll end up with some very large splats. There we go, you can see that one a bit more clearly. So that's how I give the water droplets. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're now going to complete each of these in turn. So here, fairy bonnet set. I just love this. You get 2 in 1 here. Yes, actually, at this point, I'll just show you how I store my stamps. So I keep them on these tabbed sheets, and then I keep them in a boxed set just like this, and I write the name of them on each one. So I'm going to ink this up with VersaFine Clear Purple Delight. And again, that tapping motion, that's great. And we're going to put, I think I might do it 2nd generation because it's a very bright stamp, this. Lovely. Just what we need. And I'm going to alternate the way that the flowers are hanging down. There we go. Gorgeous. So he's very inquisitive and looking up at the flowers. So that's him sorted. I'm just going to put this here so that you can see what we're doing. And for the mushroom, I'm going to put my sequins on last. For this little flower, again, tapping, tapping, using my piece of copy paper to stamp it off. So I get a 2nd generation there. Oops. That's how we get that one. I think I might do another one of that one and just bring it down a little bit that way. There we go. So that's that one. And then on the Mystic Swirl and the Fairy Thistle, I've done a bit of background script. And that actually is the stamp called Background Script. It's a large stamp and I love it. There is a right or a wrong way because it's got hearts on it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got hearts on it. So just be mindful when you pick it up that you pick it up and stamp it the right way. Now I'm just going to stamp this off a couple of times because it is quite bright. Voila. And again, inking the stamp up. Stamping it off twice. And I'm going to ink it over the Fairy Thistle. Lovely. So there we have all the components of our card now. Now I'm going to put the edges around each of the panels, but before I do that I'm just going to heat set some of this because the worst thing you would want is for it to smudge. So here we go. One thing I just want to say is when I was embossing, you saw that I picked it up and I embossed I heated the back first. Well, that's to sort of hold some of the embossing powder in place, and it's less likely to fly off because it's been adhered slightly. So I do start with the back. So I'm now going to do exactly what I did. I get a piece of paper. Exactly what I did with my shaded lilac. I'm going to take my wilted violet and I'm just going to go around the edges. Stamp off a little bit first. I love doing this two-tone colour. It just adds more depth. Voila. Now, the watermarks there have sort of faded into the background a bit, so when I'm finished this, I will go over them again. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to just take a piece of tissue paper and I'm just going to wipe over the embossing so that if it was coloured at all, I just clean it, make it back nice, bright and white. So there we go. Now these, as I said, the water seems to have faded a bit into the background, so I'm just going to give them another go. Couple of splats into my hand and give myself a hand. Give yourself a hand. We've made it nearly through this year. We all need a hand, don't we? With that, there you go, that's much more prominent now, much better. Okay, we're going to glue it on a card. Now, as I said, 14 by 14 was the size, and I'm going to put, usually I would put the first one on the biggest piece here. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I've just got a fine piece of silver thread. You can see how much I love it. I've actually used it all. Now, that's not often something you see in a crafter's room, finishing something. And I haven't bought the next reel yet. Aren't I good? Okay, so with this one, you can just play with it. This is the design that I've done here. Taking a piece of tape, just double-sided tape, a small piece, breaking it off. Now, if you had thicker thread or twine, you might not need to double it over. And twisting it round in any which way or any design that you like. I'm going to go with that one actually this time. And then just taking another piece of double-sided tape and securing it at the end. Snipping it off with my scissors, and I do keep spare scissors, separate scissors for ribbon and thread to my paper scissors. And I'm going to do the same on this little one. Voila, we are ready. The last thing that I'm going to do is put the sequins on. So I'm going to show you how I mounted them. I used tape for some of them, and then I used 3D mounting pads for the others. Again, that just gives it a bit of extra dimension and interest. So I like using these because you can see I cut them up into little pieces. So that's what I'm going to do here. Naturally, you could use the 3D mounting tape that's on a roll. That works perfectly, but I just had this. And again, I'm being ever so good and not buying unnecessary supplies, which is a change. So that's going to be that one. And then I'm also going to mount this one. The nice thing about these is that there's a little tab, so you don't have to pick it off like you do with normal when it's on a roll. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I've got a design like this, I'm going to put one of the biggest pieces down first. Giving it a little border all the way around. So what we're going to do with this one is just use some double-sided glue using Cosmic Shimmer. You know that's a favourite of mine. Comes in this cute little bottle that you can just squidge all the way over. And our little fox, our inquisitive little fox. See how easy it is to pull those edges off. There we go. Oh, we got a piece of fluff in there. There we go. Okay. And then the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to put these sequins on. And I'm sure you will have seen me put sequins on 1,000 times before. I just use my tweezers, one down there, one over there. Threes, odd numbers work really well. So that's that set. And then I had some on my Mystic Squirrel at the top. I'll pop one over there. So when you're deciding where to put them, you just look for balance. You don't want to put them in the corners. Or, oops, we dropped him upside down. Now, the tricky thing with these is that they don't like to be dropped upside down. So, because they tend to, the glue doesn't tend to dry really well on it. So, let's pick another one. And pop it on over there. There we go. Voila. Okay. So there we have it. Our lovely little card. Pretty similar. And I'm so glad that you joined me today. Thanks for watching.